G'day boys and girls, Dom here. So today we're going to talk about knife making grinders. Now yesterday I was running a course and the guy was asking about knife making grinders and what he should look for in a knife making grinder. And I figured that'd make a really good YouTube video, you know, the sort of video I wish I had when I first started looking into knife making grinders. Now I'm going to break this video up into 3 tiers. Tier 1, Tier 2 and Tier 3. And those tiers are based on price. So obviously we're not all at the same level on knife making journeys and we've all got different budgets. Tier 1 is going to be grinders about 150 bucks, 200 bucks and below. And then Tier 2 is 200 bucks to about 1,000, then a little bit above. And then Tier 3 is going to be like your final dream grinders that you should have for 30 years. So Tier 1, this is a cheap tier, and unfortunately this is the tier where you can make the most amount of compromises. And if you're not making a whole lot of knives, they'll work for you. But you are going to have to put in a whole lot more work. You're going to have to probably break out the files a fair bit to fix some of the grinds in your knives or all that sort of stuff. And you're absolutely going to be fighting your grinders to kind of get knives out of it. But you know, we all got to start somewhere. This is going to be a grinder you're going to outgrow pretty quickly. But if you're just trying to get your feet wet and sort of just make your first 2-3 knives, it'll work for you. I made a whole lot of knives on some really bad quality grinders because I didn't have any money. I was a broke ass kid, so I did what I had to do to kind of get knives out there. Now, these grinders are really not well built, and you're gonna have to modify them a fair bit to sort of make them work for you. Personally, I had a Ryobi with like a belt sander combo and like a stone on there. There's a whole bunch out there, and they're all under different names. I'm pretty sure it's the same company making these grinders and just slapping different names on them. These grinders, they work, but yeah, you're really gonna have to fight against it. I also had like a linishing combo machine with like a linishing belt on there and a sanding belt and a sanding disc on there. At this tier, you're gonna look at 3 things. The first thing you're gonna look at is you want that belt size to be relatively easily accessible. You may struggle to get the good strength belts for them, but you want to be able to get belts for them relatively easily. And that was the issue I had with the Ryobi because I couldn't actually get the standard belt size I needed at the time. It was like a weird 2x20 size or something like that. And that was just a nightmare to get. I ended up getting them custom made. That's really not what you want when you're just sort of getting into it, you know? The second thing you're gonna look at is you want it to have multiple functions. Now this obviously depends on your situation, but if you don't have a big workshop full of stuff, a lot of these machines have multiple functions. So you can actually pick one of them up. Maybe it comes with a disc sander, maybe it comes with a belt grinding stone on there. And that's just sort of gonna help you out, you know? You can buy one tool and get 2 functions out of it, that's a win. And the third thing you wanna look at is you want that grinder to be adjustable if you can. The arm of my Ryobi, for instance, was slanted at about a 30-degree angle, and that made grinding really hard. You know, you're grinding your bevel, you couldn't see what you're doing, you're probably getting sparks flying at your chest. It's not really ideal. If you can modify it to make it stand up at a 90-degree angle, that's great. Or if you can pick up a grinder that already comes at a 90-degree angle, that's even better. But at this point, you're really gonna compromise on a whole lot. You're gonna compromise on power, you're gonna compromise on tracking. I know my Ryobi grinder especially, the tracking on that was really bad. Every single time I changed the belt, I had to fiddle with it for like 5 minutes to get the tracking where I wanted it. But obviously you get what you pay for, and this is a sort of a great way to sort of get started knife making. You are gonna level up from here, but you know, if you're just trying to get your feet wet, it's a great way to go. Now, Tier 2, we're starting to spend a little bit more money. This is about $1,000 and below. Now, at this point, you're gonna want some more power. Sticks are 1 horsepower and above. Really, the more the better. And you want that tracking to be crisp and perfect. You want it to be a solid machine. You're probably not gonna get variable speed on there, so you're gonna have to compromise on that. But you want it to be sort of a solid workhorse machine that can remove some metal. Now, a lot of guys actually skip over this step, and that's totally okay. You can easily skip from a bullshit little grinder to a nice, you know, TAG 101 or a nice 84 engineering grinder. It really depends on where you are. One thing to think about is, what is your future plans from this grinder? If you're planning to upgrading to a really nice grinder down the road, maybe look at what size belts that nice grinder uses and see if you can get a machine in this Tier 2 category that has the same size of belts. Because what that means is when you buy that nice grinder, you can actually have 2 grinders that use the same belt size. Having 2 grinders is really nice as long as you have the same belt size. If one grinder is a 2x72 inch belt and one is a 2x48 inch belt, that's just a pain in the ass that you really don't want to get into. So this price range, you want more power, you don't want to be able to stall at this machine, and you're going to want better tracking, and you're going to want a belt size that you may be able to use on your nicer machines. And that brings us into Tier 3. Tier 3 are the machines that you're going to want to keep for 30 years. These are your end goal grinders. This includes the Wilmot grinders, which I personally run, the 84 engineering grinders, the KMGs, you know, all those big boy grinders that actually are really good and built for knife making. Now, one thing you're going to want, and this is sort of a bit contentious, but you're going to want variable speed. I've used fixed speed grinders, I've used variable speed grinders. I'd never buy a fixed speed grinder if I had the option to get a variable speed. Variable speed is so much nicer, it makes your life so much easier to be able to turn that belt speed down when you're doing certain things, or being able to crank that thing up to really, really fast when doing certain things as well. It's also great if you've got a grinder that can run stupid freaking fast. Now you may wonder, why would I want a grinder that can run stupid freaking fast if I'm only running it at 20% most of the time? Well, the reason is sometimes you're going to want to be able to turn that grinder up to full and really remove some metal. If you're profiling out knives, or, well, for instance, a lot of these ceramic abrasives here, they're actually designed to be ran stupid fast, and you get the best performance out of them being ran stupid fast. So you don't want to buy a grinder and wish you had more speed down the road. You want it to be something you can grow into, and that's going to last you 30 years, and you're not going to sort of get sick of it and have to upgrade again from this point. You're spending probably $2,000 at this point, so you're going to want it to be a serious bit of kit. Another bit of advice at this tier is to not cheap out. There is a whole lot of grinders around this level. If you look on eBay and Amazon and all that sort of stuff, you'll see some cheap slap together grinders. Some of them are okay, most of them are not great. I suggest stick with the name brand grinders, the grinders that a lot of guys out there recommend. KMG is very popular. I love my Wilmot grinders. 84 engineering grinders are great. I think Clarix is okay. I've used some of them, but you're gonna wanna stick with a name brand grinder. You don't wanna have a grinder that's just poorly built, it rattles around, it's just not as solid as you want it to be. If you're spending big money on a grinder, you want that grinder just be a solid machine that's just gonna work and work and work and work. You're also going to want that grinder to have parts that are readily available. That's where I have, well, not an issue, but I really wish I had the 84 engineering grinders instead of the Wilmots these days. When I bought these grinders, 84 engineering wasn't really an option. And now the issue is that these are American machines that aren't being imported into Australia anymore. While getting parts isn't too difficult, it's not as easy as it used to be, you know? So if I had the Australian made grinders, I could at least get parts a little bit easier. Another thing that people always ask about is belt size. There are two main belt sizes here in Australia. There is the 2x48, which is very sort of a metric size, and we have the 2x72, which is a very, very weird size here in Australia. You go to a belt supply place, most of them have never even heard of a 2x72. Now, a lot of these places can actually cut up belts for you. Otherwise, artisan supplies do sell both sizes of belt. Now, if I was to do it again, I'd buy 2x48 inch grinders, mainly because A, they're easy to get, B, they're a smaller grinder package, so I could actually fit probably 4 grinders on this bench right here. They're typically a cheaper machine, which is great when you're trying to, you know, tool up a workshop. And as far as power goes and, you know, belt heat goes, I haven't been able to see a real big difference between the 2x48s and the 2x72s, at least personally. But at this point, I've already invested in 2x72s. I'm not going to sell these things off just to, you know, have 2x48s. That's just me. These work fine, and I've yet to have a real issue with them in any way. Very great machines, very well built. You also want it to have adjustability. You want it to be very versatile. The great things about these tube arm grinders, you can switch out the tool arms for hollow grinding, for flat grinding. You can put in tool rests, you can take out tool rests, you can do small contact wheels. The opportunities and the modifications for these things are great. It's a great platform to be able to modify things. It's something that I really, really like. If you can get a grinder that flips sideways as well, that is great. Horizontal grinding is so nice to have. Now, if you've got a dedicated horizontal grinder as well, that's even better. So the ability to flip your grinders, very, very, very nice. Now, one thing I wish these grinders had was better options as far as dust prevention and belt protection, all that sort of stuff. Now, most guys probably won't have this issue, but we're grinding a lot of knives here and the dust is ridiculous. These machines are dust monsters. On most of them, there's pretty much no dust protection at all. If you're grinding in your garage, your whole garage is gonna be covered in dust within seconds, especially if you're grinding timber or synthetics like that. It's just nasty. Another issue is also work safe or OH&S compliant. Having an exposed belt running stupid fast, as far as OH&S go, they really don't like it. So I'm probably gonna have to modify these grinders down the road and put some dust covers on there or some belt trads on there to sort of A, keep the dust down, and B, just kind of keep WorkSafe happy and keep my students and myself protected, you know? So yeah, that's my opinions on knife making grinders. I may have missed some things out. If you've got your own opinions, chuck them in the comments. I reckon it's gonna be a pretty good resource for new guys trying to buy grinders to go through the comments and see what everybody else is using. Let me know what grinders you're using. If you're using Wilmots like me or anything like that, I wanna know about it. Anyway guys, thanks for watching, I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video.